my dog loving friends. Today's trainer tip is the beginning of a series. And so this series is address or suppress. And you might be wondering, what do you mean address or suppress? And I saw this great quote the other day. I've actually saw it years ago, and it popped up, actually it popped up on my Facebook feed as a memory. And I was like, oh, that's right. I still love that great quote. And it's by Ashley Warner. And it says, beneath every behavior, there is a feeling. And beneath every feeling, there is a need. And when we meet that need, rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause, not the symptom. Which I'm sure she wrote that probably for self-care or for, kids or toddlers. I don't know what she wrote that for. But it holds true for dog training in a very real way. And what I have taught people in the past is when I come in to do a behavior consultation and they have this laundry list of behaviors, I look for what I call the golden thread, the golden string, because there's generally a golden thread that links, connects all these different behavior problems because there is one root cause, right? So if we can begin to deal with that cause, that one item, behavior across the board will start to improve. And the key is finding that golden thread, finding that connection. And that's what I mean by address or suppress. If I look at just one behavior and I give you tips on, suppressing, eliminating that one behavior, that cause is going to come over here and pop up over here. And then I give you behaviors to suppress that. And then, it's like that old game of whack-a-mole, right? Where you have the mallet and you hit the little gopher thing and then it goes down and then it pops up over here and you hit that and then it pops up over here. That is what happens when you only suppress behaviors instead of getting to the root need, rather than addressing the cause. So that is what I want to talk about. And it's probably going to be a couple of episodes because I have found, no offense to you all, because I sometimes fall into the same category. When it comes to things that we're learning, I have found that if my videos are too long, y'all don't want to watch them. Even if you do speed up and put me on 2 times or 1.5 times, like our attention span for learning has been drastically shortened over the years because TikToks are short and quick. Reels are short and quick. Like we're always going to the next thing. And it's very difficult for many of us to stop and really stop and take it in. So as much as I prefer the longer format, I think you guys, my viewers, prefer the shorter format. So I'll break this up. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about is address or suppress. Oftentimes, the first step for this is, and this is the first thing I do when I do a behavior modification program, is I write down all of the things that my dog does that I don't like. And then, so I look at my laundry list, I look at the list that the client provides me, and then I step back and I categorize it into what can be driving this behavior? Is it a lack of training? Is it boredom? Is it a fear-based, anxious behavior that's driving this behavior? I look at all of that, and then that helps me narrow in, and that allows me to find the golden thread. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this. So here's the funny thing. There's 2 ways to approach the world. Just do it or teach me. I am 100% in the teach me camp. If you take your car to get the oil changed, you get the oil changed and you have no idea how it works or what you should do. Cool. Or I can teach you how to change your oil. You may choose not to do it. You may choose to hire it for someone else. Or I've given you the skills to do it. One of the things that I strive to do for my students is to teach you how this process works so that you can problem solve when a behavior crops up with your dog that you don't quite know how to handle. Okay? So that's why I'm like, I want to teach you this portion of the training. Would it be easier for me to say, hey, what's your problem? Oh, they do X. Okay, then do XYZ, done. They do this. Okay, XYZ, do that. And many trainers do that. And a lot of people want that. I prefer to teach you the behind the scenes process. Because someday I'm going to get hit by a bus, I'm going to die, and I want you to know how to do this. So start with what are your problems? What are the behaviors that your dog is doing? Is it a lack of training? That's the first thing I want to address today, a lack of training. When we start a training program, I want you to think about going from novice to intermediate to advanced. Right? We advance our skill set as we get better. If you go back and look at some of my very first videos, you can tell that I have gotten better. I still don't script my videos. but the technology's gotten better, right? The picture is better. It's not so grainy, it's not so blurry. I have upgraded my equipment. I like to think I've upgraded my language, although if I'm being real honest, it's really hard for me because I want to be my authentic self, but I don't want to offend the viewer. And I kind of have a potty mouth sometimes. So oftentimes when you see me filming, you might see me pause because that's me filtering out the naughty word, right? So I have made advancements, and that is true for your dog. So when you start looking at basic behaviors, oftentimes the naughty behavior arrives because there is a lack of training for that environment. What do I mean? When your dog is aroused, whether it's excitement or fear, when that chemical cascade occurs in their body, when it takes over their brain, cognitive function decreases. So they have a harder time accessing the things you've taught them. That doesn't mean that they can't access them. It's just that they have a very difficult time. Especially true for more advanced behaviors. What do I mean? If you and I are driving in a car and you slam on the brakes so that you don't hit the car in front of you and your heart's pounding, and I look at you and I'm like, hey, what's the square root of 64? You're like, what? A, that is not relevant to the situation, and B, I can't access that right now. My heart is pounding. I've got a chemical cascade happening. And I say, hey, what's 2 + 2? You're like, 4. Can you spell cat? C-A-T. Can you spell ridiculous? You're ridiculous. What are you talking about? So when our dogs are aroused by distractions outside, someone walking past the front window, there's another dog on leash, there's kids playing, they see another dog, they see squirrels, right? When that chemical cascade happens, and we're over here asking for the square root of 64, they can't access that. They can access 2 + 2. So Annie. So when I ask them, what is the square root of 64? That is too complex of a mathematical problem. 2 + 2 is 4. Let's say we ask our dog to sit. A 2 + 2 = 4 sit is like a 2 or 3 second sit, like they put their butt down and then they stand up. A 60 second, a minute, or a 2 minute sit with distractions, that is like a square root of 64 kind of sit. You haven't done enough. There's a lack of training to get to that level, right? Because if you're a math person, which I am not, even if math is your strongest suit, and I say, hey, what's the square root of 64? You can still access that. Somebody who is not strong in math would not access that. I am more of a speller, so if you asked me like a more difficult spelling word, I could probably access that. My husband, he would be the math guy, I would be the spelling person. So when I talk about a lack of training, what I generally encourage people to understand is that there is a skill progression from novice to intermediate to advanced, even for basic positions like sit. So an advanced sit would be a longer duration of a sit. It would also be a sit with distractions. So when I build a basic sit, what happens is that I need to have enough repetitions that it becomes muscle memory in the dog, so that when their brain is hijacked by chemicals and distractions, their body can carry the weight and still perform the behavior. So that is where lack of training comes in. You haven't done enough repetitions to build muscle memory, and you're asking for too difficult of a behavior for that situation because you've not done the training. Now, our dogs are not going to train themselves. They rely on you to do that. So Jennifer, how many repetitions does it take to get to muscle memory? Most of the time, I tell you, work to 1,000 repetitions. And I can hear you right now. You're like, what? Like, that is so long. That's going to take me forever. No, it won't. Here's how you structure it. You work in sets of 10. I work in sets of 10. I encourage my students to work in sets of 10 because, again, I'm not a math person, so 10 tens is 100. So if I will advance my behavior at 80%, that means 8 or 9 times out of 10 the dog is successful. Then I can escalate, elevate, advance, pick your word, that behavior. I can't tell you what 80% is of 5 repetitions. I just can't. It's not my thing. So I work in sets of 10. It's a nice, easy round number: 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So in the morning, I might do 5 sets of 10 of exercise A. And in the evening, I'm going to work at 5 sets of 10. So at the end of the day, I have 100 repetitions of, say, sit. I do that for a week, Monday through Friday. I take the weekend off because I want to have fun with my dog. That is 50 repetitions. Or 500 repetitions. Again, see, told you, math not my strong suit. So 2 weeks, I'm at 1,000 repetitions. Somewhere around 500 repetitions, the dog is great, but for some of my dogs who are a little bit not as quick, they might need 750 repetitions. Here's what I have learned, human nature. If I tell you you need 1,000 repetitions, you will probably do 500. If I tell you to do 500 repetitions, you'll probably do 250. If I tell you to do 10 repetitions, you're probably gonna do 5, right? So I tell you shoot for 1,000, hoping you at least get 500. So at the end of the week, at the end of 2 weeks, you've got your 1,000 repetitions, then you can elevate and you can start to increase duration, or you can start to increase distraction. Don't do them both at the same time. Do one, increase it that way, and then come back down, increase it with distractions, bring it back up, come back down. This is skill progression. You advance it and then you bring it back down because you're adding another layer of difficulty. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that is what a lack of training looks like. You've only done 100 repetitions, you haven't been really clear about what your expectations are, and suddenly your dog does not have a high level. So it's a lack of training. They're not able to access the things they know, and the things that they know aren't really very strong. So that's the first thing I look at. Is there a lack of training? So what do I want you to do right now? Today, I want you to take a good hard look at your dog's basic skill level, sit or down or stay, even leash walking. How long, what is my baseline behavior? How long will my dog perform something when there's nothing going on? Be really honest. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being they don't know it, and 10 being they're advanced, they can do it despite distractions with a long duration, whatever. Rank your dog's basic behaviors. Sit, down, wait, or stay. I use those as two different things. Leash walking, like just be real honest. There's no point in lying to yourself. Just take a really good, honest look at your dog's skill, and then that will give you your base behavior, and that will allow you to see if some of your problem behaviors are linked to a lack of training. So next week, we're going to talk about the next part of that is when it comes to naughty behaviors, addressing the rehearsal of them. Okay, so addressing how often they rehearse their behaviors, because that's the next thing you need to look at when we're talking about addressing or suppressing. Until next time, may you always have a dog to love.